Hey, friends, and welcome back to a new episode of Off the Cuff. Today we will be looking at reviews that talk about Pandorum. This one will be really interesting for me because I can't say whether or not I actually enjoyed watching this movie or that I liked it. I can't sit here and say with 100% certainty that it was good, but it's such an interesting movie. The story is very interesting to try and put together. I think the acting is really well done. The visual effects hold up pretty well. So I'm really interested to see what people have to say about this movie. All right. As always, it seems like we'll start with Brian Eggert from Deep Focus Review. It wants to transcend several genres at once, and by doing so becomes something original, except it doesn't realize these many goals, nor does it accomplish maybe just one or two. Yeah, it's an interesting take. I guess I'd be interested to know what genres he thinks it's trying to transcend in that regard. If it's trying to transcend the horror genre, which is clearly what it was marketed as. Um, it, it definitely its main pull is definitely the mystery aspect of what's going on with the ship and everything. I don't necessarily disagree with this, but I think I think it's a pretty intriguing movie, all things considered. This one from Richard Propes from The Independent Critic, an eerie, psychologically involving, and emotionally resonant space thriller that never achieves its potential. 2.5 out of 4. Yeah, that's an interesting take on there. I think it. I think the movie does have a lot to say, or that it's trying to say. I just don't know. Like he was saying, I'm not sure it does. I'm not sure it does a good job of it. It's one of those where I'm not sure I would give it another watch, but if I would give it another watch, I wonder if I would glean more from the movie, if that makes sense. Now that I know what it is or what it's trying to do. Uh, This one from Brent McKnight, The Last Thing I See. Alvar has a definite talent for the visual aspects of storytelling, so even when the plot comes off of the rails, the film looks pretty, and he's fond of cranking up the tension, which drives the film speedily along. See, that's an interesting, and this is a fresh review. Actually, this isn't a negative review from a critic. Um, that's an interesting that's an interesting review because the movie to me pace wise is very like stop start stop start stop start. So I'm not sure. It's definitely tense throughout the whole movie. That's definitely fair. But the pacing is a more interesting question. This one from Annalie Newitz from io9.com. This movie had way too little science in it and way too much running around boringly, and the monsters not even cool. I mean, on the monsters part of it, again, like I poke fun in the review, it definitely has Dead Space vibes to it. I wouldn't necessarily punish a movie for not having a lot of science in it as a science fiction, or I shouldn't say science fiction. For a movie that takes place in space, I don't necessarily punish a movie for not having a lot of science. It would be like kind of like punishing Star Wars for not having a lot of science because it takes place in space, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that's fair criticism to poke at this movie because it's not trying to be like a hard sci-fi. It's not trying to be like a Star Trek with like technobabble and stuff like that. It's doing its own thing, and so the science isn't really a focus, except for again some of the cool aesthetic of the ship, like the hand crank to turn on the console. Like I thought that was a really neat. I thought that was a really neat aesthetic. This one from Sean Davis from Sci-Fi Now. Well paced and boasting impressive production design and decidedly gloomy atmosphere, but execution, no matter how efficient, is no match for originality. It's kind of a weird review because it sounds like you're praising the movie, but you gave it a 2 out of 5. So I'm not really sure what to do with that. So you're saying it's well paced and a really good production design and a decided gloomy atmosphere, which of course it is. It's a science fiction or it's a space horror movie basically. So basically you're dinging it for it being not original, which is interesting. Very interesting. Again, unless you're saying it's like Dead Space, right? But I don't know. Based on that review, I'd say you at least gave it like a 3 out of 5. Interesting. Okay, so this one from Perry Nemerov from Cinema Blend. It takes a brilliant concept and stellar performances and buries them in banality and mediocre scares. Um, the mediocre scares part of it, I think that can be a fair assessment. I think you lose for how often you see the creatures that they're dealing with. Um, it does lose impact as the movie goes along. Um, there's at one point where they're fighting one and it takes a lot to kill it, and you know it doesn't have a lot of, it does take away some of its scare factor in that regard. But at that point, I feel like it's passing by the time the scares wear off. I think the movie is trying to pass the baton on to be something else, like the mystery aspect of the movie. Again, I'm not trying to spoil too much in case anybody wants to go watch it from here, because it is a really interesting movie. It takes a little, it just takes a lot of concentration to watch that movie. I was watching it with my wife, and my wife loves horror movies. It's like her number one thing. And she was halfway through, she was just like, I need to like focus on this movie to like follow what's happening. And I felt that same thing too. This one from Paul Chambers, CNN Radio. I liked this movie even more on second viewing. The monsters were trivial, but the plot was intriguing. Granted, you would have to be a hardcore sci-fi fan to like this. Interesting. It's interesting that he specifically went out to say I liked this movie even more on the second watch. So that's something I might have to, that's something I might have to go and take a look at. All right, let's go over to the audience reviews and see what they have to say. This, I think, will be the more interesting part of it because this is the reviews on the audience side are much higher. I shouldn't say much. We went from 26% to 49%. So let's see. This one from Jacob. 3.5 star. A generally gripping experience that starts on very strong footing by fixating on body horror and the vacuum of orienting information, but with proverbially spe- which which proverbially peaks in high school via showing far too much, far too fast. Nevertheless, painstakingly nailing the aesthetics of a derelict spacecraft horror while casually fumbling character dynamics through its largely ambling plot. That was a mouthful of a review, Jacob, but I definitely see where you're going with your review here. Um, it's there's a lot to unpack here. I think I definitely, just to take one aspect here, I definitely think it shows too much too fast. I can definitely agree with that because you get the monsters pretty quickly, all things considered. This movie is almost like the writer and director is very excited to show you what what they want to do or what's going on, and not in a spoil the movie sort of way, but in a, they want to like get to the next thing pretty quickly. But again, at the same time, it has like a very interesting pace. The movie, it's a very strange pace that the movie takes. A lot of people in here that are saying it's like a brilliant movie, cool concept but messy execution. This one from Regina. Well, it was well done. It's not something I would feel compelled to watch again. If I'm thinking about Alien or Life, those are movies I can watch multiple times. This movie does not do the same for me. It was watchable but not enthralling. Yeah, again, I guess I would be interested to watch a second time if I would glean more from this movie. Um, Alien, I mean, as far as this review is concerned, yeah, I mean, Alien is definitely one I would like to, I sit down and watch almost on a yearly basis. And Life is one that I've heard is really good, but I haven't gotten around to watching it yet. Yeah, a lot of 4 star, 4.5, 5, 3. This movie is I don't want to say divisive, but it's got a lot of positive reviews. This is an interesting review from Anonymous, a 4 star. All I have to say is that for a movie with such good contained setting, such good actors, such a great plot, and such a great twist, I do find it really bizarre that it has something like 20 something percent by top critics. It is definitely worth the watch, especially when it is the surprising going blind into the movie. And when it is this close to being a cult classic with the possibility of becoming one in years to come, I really have no idea what top critics were watching back in 2009. I'm not sure if this movie gets up quite to cult classic standing. It again, it is definitely an intriguing movie, and it's very interesting to watch. Um, and again, I mean, based on these reviews, there's a lot of positive reviews on this, and and that's even with all the positive reviews, it's sitting at a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's really interesting. Now, let's see if we can't find one more here. All right, here's an interesting one from another anonymous. Pandorum is a difficult watch, especially for those who are not fans of sci-fi. I like sci-fi, and I did not like it at all the first time I saw it. It took a while to give it another chance. Then, after future viewing and paying closer attention and knowing what's going on, it's actually not half bad. Once you factor in space dementia, it makes perfect sense. 3.5 of 5. Again, that might be a little bit of spoiler there, but it's it's a very interesting movie. And again, and this is why it's always good to watch a movie a second time, right? Because first time you watch it, you could be in a bad headspace, you have a hard time following that sort of thing, but then you get that second chance to go watch it, and you're like, okay, yeah, I can kind of figure out what's going on, and yeah, I can see what's happening here, and it's really good. Um, yeah, I mean, even on first watch, it's a very disorienting experience. Um, I don't necessarily like the full direction that the movie went in, but it is for what it was trying to do. I think it was really, really well done. And again, I mean, last thing I'll say on it is I still don't know if I can definitively say if it is a good or a bad movie. It's just a really interesting movie. So I think we'll leave it there, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Um, Shout out to our lone patron, Zachabor. If you'd like to join him as a free or paid member, you can hop on over to the Patreon. Link will be in the description. I'm still working on some stuff to do for the patrons. So if you have any ideas, obviously feel free to comment. But yeah, if you have any suggestions for movies, please comment. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying what I'm doing here. I'd really appreciate that. And otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and I really hope I see you in the next one.